Hello again, everybody. It is Jake and Joe for the podcast about everything. Back again. There was a week break in between this episode and the last one. Sorry about that. If you are that much of an avid listener, thank you very much. How are you, Joe?
It's been a little break, but it's probably been a break worth having. You know, we've had a chance to gauge ourselves, get refreshed, and put our thoughts back in action for this, what is going to be, of course, another Blockbuster podcast.
Good. So today's episode is on weddings. And I'm going to let Joe take the lead on this one, as he is currently planning his own wedding. So, Joe, take it away. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Jake. Well, you're absolutely right. I'm planning a wedding at the moment. When I say planning, I mean I am the wonderful sidekick to my fiance who's effectively planning our wedding. So there may be other people out there who can sympathise with that. And I say that not because she's taken over, but because she's just much better at it than me. She's got a good vision in her mind, and I'm purely there to back her up every now and then. But yeah, she's fantastic at it, and I'm doing my best to chip in where possible. But yeah, I think that really this idea about weddings as a podcast is something I think would be good to talk about because, as you say, at the moment, currently planning, you start to reflect back about weddings you've been to. You try and pull apart the best things and the things that maybe didn't go so well, and try and take as many of those good things into your own wedding as possible. So it really got us thinking about it, talking about it. So I hark back even to those early days of going to weddings. Now, one big thing people talk about nowadays, should kids be at weddings and should kids be invited to weddings? Now, that's obviously a contentious issue. But Jake, I know that and actually a lot of our friendship was based upon us going to weddings together as children. Yeah. So thinking back to those days, Jake, what's your thoughts? What do you remember vividly or fondly about going to weddings as a kid?
So first off, I hated the fact that I'd have to wear a suit. All right. I didn't like that. I was always a casual guy. I hated having. I was page boy a few times. So I had to carry the rings, and that's quite a big responsibility in itself. But I'll come on to that in a minute. But yeah, the first thing was, having to wear a suit. Like, you used to just wear like a tracksuit or shorts and t-shirt, or whatever. But no, your mum dresses you up in a suit. You think you look ridiculous. You hate it, but it's okay because you get to there and there's the other kids dressed up like you, and they hate it too. So that goes. But yeah, so it was like that, and it was the whole seeing people who you haven't really seen in a while. Like relatives or friends or whatever, and I was quite a shy kid, and I remember hating that first sort of where you just be like, oh, you haven't seen him in a while, and everyone's sort of making a fuss at you, and you're just like, oh god, this is kind of embarrassing, I don't know what to say. But then a glimmer of hope would come out when you see your friend like yourself, and be like, oh, he's here or she's here, cool, so I can hang out, we can hang out with people today. It can be more of a social occasion for us kids as well as the adults, so that starts to fade away. But yeah, I was page boy a few times to my aunties and my mum's friends or whatever. And they'd put these rings on a pillow. I remember one particular time we were driving to the church, and my dad was driving. He had to brake quite hard. I think someone cut him up or something. And the rings were on the pillow, but they weren't tied up tight enough. So as the car stopped, or the sharp brakes have hit, the rings have gone flying off the pillow. So we had to pull over the car, and we went police doing a drug search on a vehicle looking for these bloody rings.
Oh god,
that was quite true. A child that age should not be given that type of responsibility. All right,
wholeheartedly agree.
Keep the rings on you and just give them to the kid when he gets to the church. All right.
That would seem the sensible thing to do. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think actually one of my most traumatic times at a wedding was back in the 90s. I remember going to these weddings, and when you were having the dinner or whatever and dessert was served, they would always serve dessert in a carved out either melon or pineapple with sort of ice cream in the middle and a fruit salad on top. And then they'd put a sparkler on top of it. Okay, well, me being the dick that I was, I've grabbed it, but I've grabbed the sparkler and I've burnt my fingers. And it's really hurt. So my granddad's taken my hand and just plunged it into the ice cream just to cool it off while the waiters came with a glass of water.
It sounds like you've had a bit of a traumatic childhood when it comes to going to weddings.
On the whole, it's just a few occasions that happened, but on the whole, it was all right. Everyone had a good time.
For me, though, you're proving a point exactly, which is the fond memories you have as going to weddings as a kid. Now, for me, just like you, I've got lots of really, really good memories, and a lot of them are really small things, like for example, and you'll probably know this, you get at the wedding, you're under the age of 10, whatever age you are, and as soon as that dance floor is open, you're there sliding on your knees, ruining that suit that your parents
Yeah,
probably spent like 200 quid
yeah.
on or something.
Your mum's going mental.
Exactly. You're sliding on your knees, you're dancing, you are, for some reason, another thing as well, and I still see it today when I see kids at weddings, there seems to be like this thing where young kids, after there's confetti and streamers and stuff that have been sprayed out all over the floor, for some reason, kids decide to, like, their goal now is to collect all the confetti and the streamers and collect them into nice, neat piles all over the dance floor. Now, I don't know if that's still a thing as much as it used to be, but
Yeah,
I remember doing that like practically every wedding and all the kids doing
same.
that,
Yeah. And
collecting
then
the
you was like,
piles.
that's it. And then you'd like throw it at each other.
Yeah,
or,
basically. Have
or,
like
or,
a,
or if you're really savage, like the party poppers, like they'd be obviously you'd pop them and stuff, and there's just like the little plastic container left, so you just throw them at each other as well because it was funny.
basically having like a confetti snowball fight is exactly
Basically,
what
yeah.
it
There's always some kid got hit in the eye, and like that'd be it for everyone. Like, no, right, that's it. You lot can't be trusted. Like, you're too rough.
But those memories were just absolutely brilliant. And I know nowadays that a lot of people decide not to have children at the wedding, and that's cool. And I think it's a choice that people should be allowed to have. It's their day, so do it how they want to do it. But I definitely am glad that a lot of the weddings I went to as a kid, there were lots of other kids there as well, and I got to make really good friends, and also got to see a lot of extended family that I wouldn't normally see. So those weddings were really like an event, a real coming together of sometimes hundreds of people that you'd maybe only ever see at a wedding, but you got a chance to see them. And you got a chance to experience what it meant to see a couple in love and get married and have that day at such a young age. So you got that example early on in life. So like loads of happy memories as a kid. But yeah, definitely nothing as traumatic as you, Jake. That's for sure.
I mean, yeah, like traumatic. Yeah, you probably could call it traumatic, but it was it's memories, and it's allowed me to talk about it and joke about it now. Obviously, it wasn't funny at the time.
Exactly. No, no, you got no long-lasting scars, have you?
No,
So
not at all. No, I'll never look at a sparkler again or a pineapple full of ice cream.
yeah,
I'm
can't
glad
wait
that
to hear.
stopped.
Yeah, I can't wait to do our bonfire night podcast in a few months' time. Talk about Jake's experiences of rockets and stuff. So yeah, sparklers are us. Okay, so yeah, but funnily enough, though, moving along, I think I'm going to take a little step in between though, because we're going to get talk about more about weddings and
Yeah,
churches and ceremonies that take place. But there's that thing that happens, okay, when you get into your maybe I suppose early 20s. For a lot of people now, probably experiencing it 30s, 40s, 50s.
yeah,
Okay, and there's that bit before the wedding. Okay, it's the stag do, it's the hen party. All
yeah.
right, I know we've touched on it before a few times, but I think the stag do's and the hen parties, they seem to be operating on different universes, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
back in the day, like I like with like hen parties and stuff and stag do's. Like I remember my dad going to stag do's, like for like my uncles, whatever, for like family relatives, whatever stuff like that. And it was just like you just go for a meal out and like you go for a few drinks, stuff like that. But now it's like a different game. Like you're going abroad, you're going to all these different places. It's like a
Mm.
stag weekend. It's not like one night. It's like a whole weekend and stuff. So yeah, it has proper elevated into something just completely different.
And there seems to be this want to punish the stag. Okay, so
Yeah,
whoever's
yeah,
getting married, this
yeah,
guy, I always have sympathy because I've been on a few stag do's and many of
yeah,
which we've been on together.
yeah.
And I've seen stags, okay, being electrocuted
Wow,
while playing five-a-side football.
that was a
I've
great one.
seen a stag being absolutely completely covered from head to toe in fake tan, dressed up in a wedding dress, and basically set upon by lads in Newcastle.
Yeah.
I've seen stags dressed in gimp outfits and whipped. Uh, I don't. I just want to know, why are they so violent? At what point? I mean, I'm nervous because, of course, we've got my stag do in a few months' time.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
nervous because like it's become this culture of destroying. Like, there's no holds barred. Let's just see how much pain we can put the stag through. What's that
yeah.
all about?
I mean, it's funny you mentioned the whole gimp outfits. I've seen two stags dressed that way. One was on a stag in Newcastle. They actually dressed him up like that on the train. So he's walked out the train toilet dressed in a gimp suit for the whole journey, and there's like little kids in that like on the train, which is kind of weird. And then another stag I went to, which was abroad, they did the same to the stag. But what happened was, so his dad was there as well. We was in Tenerife. So his dad was there as well, and his dad's best friend he's not a well man, so he had a mobility scooter. So what they did was they dressed the guy up like a gimp, sat him on the mobility scooter, and he was going up and down the hotel halls for about 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. What a sight.
I don't, yeah, I know. But I don't understand the whole punishment for the. Is it because it's like they call it like the last of the freedom, so they're going to go like on a mad one? I mean, personally, if I get engaged or get married, I don't think I want a stag. Or if I do have a stag, it's going to be very. I'm going to be the one calling the shots here, all right? Because I ain't game for none of that, all right? Like, there's having a good time, and there's just be. I mean, don't get me wrong, those guys who did it, proper sports. You got to take your hat off to them, all right? They took it like men, all right? But I would not be putting up with any of that shit.
You're going to plan your own stag party then, yeah? You're going to set
be
the ground rules.
Very civilized, maybe a wine tasting weekend somewhere. I don't even like wine, so I'll just have like some crackers and stuff. I like my activities. We do lots of activities. There'll be a lot of room for activities, you know. But yeah, I mean, I've like you said, I've seen a lot of punishment happen to stags. I mean, I don't know if the hens get it as bad as the stags do, but the stags get it pretty bad.
Well, this is the thing. I've been trying to do a bit of studying on this, okay, and I've been reviewing, mostly what I can see and what I've been told on social media, okay. And by the looks of it, hens is completely different, okay. The hen at a hen party seems to be given gifts, okay. They seem to be going on these classy nights out, these cocktail bars, okay, dressed up to the nines, looking glamorous. Okay, they're made to feel clearly very, very special on their hen party. Cool. So I've decided I'm going to allow my groom's party to know that actually what I want is not a stag party. I would like a hen party. That's what I want. Okay, I would like a hen party instead. Okay, so I'm just putting it out there.
Think about sten parties then, where they merge the stag and the hen parties together. How do you feel about that?
Okay, so I find that uncomfortable. I'm not sure exactly why. Yeah, I feel like the purpose of the stag and the hen is to have that almost like a one last hurrah with all your friends and your family, maybe away from that person. I mean, we've talked previously as well about when couples end up in the same nightclub together. Okay, so having a whole sten party where you're spending maybe a few days together with all that hormones knocking around and drink and that many people, that sounds like a recipe for disaster, if you ask me.
Yeah, I've never understood it, to be honest. I just feel like neither party could relax either. Like maybe the friends could relax, but I don't feel like the bride and groom could relax. I feel like they'd be, I don't know, should I say, or should I do that? I just think it just ruins it. I think it should be kept as a purely separate occasion. Like stags go away their way, the hens go away their way. It's been done like that for centuries. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah, I guess as well, if you want to have something a bit more combined before the wedding, you're going to have an engagement party, right? I suppose that kind of ticks the box.
I feel like engagement parties could be a thing of the past. I remember as a kid going to quite a few engagement parties, but I don't really see it happening. Like my sister had an engagement party, but I think that's because she was going to get married abroad, and she wanted to have sort of like more people so she could like celebrate with everyone, the ones that couldn't make it. But yeah, I just don't feel like engagement parties are really a thing anymore.
No, I'd say there is definitely less. I'd agree with you on that. It seems to be that people are just saving up for the wedding now as well because it's expensive, right? And that's another thing. Weddings. Let me tell anybody, okay, who's yet to look at planning a wedding, and people always say, and it is 100% true, you're gonna have to save a hell of a lot of money, okay, even just to have a kind of basic wedding, right? And yeah, you can do beauty on a budget, and you can probably have a wedding it's very basic form without spending much. But if you want to, have a record of the day, you want to have a photographer or a videographer, or if you want to have a DJ playing the music that, rather than just have someone playing music off an iPod, it's going to cost you money, right? And I suppose that's the thing, you throw an engagement party into the mix and you're basically planning another big party, having to pay out for another big party. So I can see why maybe it's dying out.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, I've often talked about my girlfriend about this, about weddings and stuff. And from quite early on, I was like I said to her, look, don't get me wrong. If you want to get married and we want to do the whole wedding thing, like that's fine. Okay, I know you want to do X, Y, and Z. I said, but I could live without it because, like you said, I'm
just trying to picture a reaction to that. Sorry, I'm just trying to bear that in my mind.
I had to say it early on, all right, because I wasn't going to disappoint no one. But it's just the sheer cost of it, like you said. I just don't. I've looked at how much weddings cost, and like I've seen sort of average figures, and it's just like, wow. Like the things you could do with that money, all right, the things you could do for each other. You could buy a nicer house. You could renovate your house. I don't know. You could buy a car. I don't know. Like there's just so many things you could do with that money. And it's just like, wow, I'm paying all these thousands just so everyone else can have a good time. All right, I got to pay for everyone to eat and drink and stuff. And it just really gets my goat. And I know for a fact that there's certain venues that I remember I had a friend of mine was planning a wedding, and he was telling me the minute you tell a venue it's for a wedding, their price changes. They're like, oh, okay, we can make a bit of money here. And I think that's just crazy. But obviously, you know better than I do right now what's going on. So, you know, cost-wise, you could probably elaborate on that for me on like what you think of it and stuff like that.
It's an industry in itself. I mean, it really is. Take aside venues, photographers, DJs, caterers, everything else that comes with it. You know, the wedding industry is just that. It's an industry, and they hike the prices up. It's like when a big football tournament happens in a foreign country, right?
Yeah,
And then all
yeah,
the
yeah.
flights go up and all the cost of hotels go up because they
Yeah,
know they've got a target audience there that they
yeah.
can sell to, and they know that the people are going to have to do it. They're going to have to pay it. So I think it is unfair. I think it is massively overpriced having a wedding. But then equally, for me, I suppose it's something I've always wanted to do because going to weddings, I've always had a really good time. And
Yeah.
some of my best memories in my life have been at weddings,
Mhm.
experiencing those moments with people. So I'm sort of torn between, you know, the fact that it is overpriced, and I can completely understand where you're coming from by saying, well, yeah, you think of all the things you could spend the money on instead. But I suppose if you're only planning on doing it once, which I am, let me put it out there now, because I know my other half listens. Okay, only planning on having one wedding, right? So as a once in a lifetime thing, I think, and that's what it is. So that's what it really, I suppose, most people go into it assuming it's only going to happen once.
Yeah.
I can see why you'd want to have that one-off big party, you know, and I'm willing to stump up the cash, you know, just about. It breaks my heart at times paying for stuff and seeing the cost of stuff, but you know, as a one-off, it's doable, right? So yeah, I mean, I bought into it. I mean, maybe your mind will change. Maybe you know she'll win you over unless you're thinking it's probably going to happen, Jake.
I'll see how yours pans out, and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Although, to take the stress out of it, you can get wedding planners, and I've heard they do a fantastic job. But once again, you're just hiking the price up again of what you want to pay, and it's sort of a bit just like, oh, well, all right, fair enough. It's taking the stress out of it, but is that worth paying the extra? I don't know, like 10 grand or something. I don't know what they charge, but it's ridiculous money.
It is a lot, and there are just a bit of advice for some people out there as well. Like you can, with some venues, they'll give you somebody there to help coordinate and organise the wedding with you. Now they won't probably give you the full service compared to what you might get from like an independent wedding planner, but they're pretty good actually. A lot of venues do offer that extra support there, someone to guide you through, help coordinate the day. So that's quite good. You can get that as part of your price basically when you're booking your venue, so which is what we've got, which is quite handy. But when you say wedding planners, all I can think of is Frank out of Father of the Bride. That's what I can think about. So you just summed up that image in my mind.
Isn't he in like every film as well? All the Father of the Bride. Was there 2 or 3 of them? And Frank was in both of them, so he must have been good at what he was doing to get like reoccurring business.
He's good. He's a good character. If anyone hasn't seen that film, I highly recommend it, especially if you're planning a wedding. Go and watch Father of the Bride. You'll definitely see the ups and downs of engagement and the wedding process. So that's all. That's everything I learned about weddings was from that film. So.
Well, I've seen a couple of episodes of that. Don't Tell the Bride. Have you ever seen?
Yeah.
Husband plans it, and it's just a bit like I have no sympathy for the girls when they get upset. All right, because you're getting this guy to plan it. All right, he doesn't know anything about planning weddings. Okay, he's got a budget of I don't know how much, and then it's just like you're getting upset because he's made a mistake. The guy doesn't know what he's doing. So don't put him in that position. Then get upset because he didn't perform the way you wanted him to.
As well, though, if you're signing up to this program, okay, and you're the bride, you must know what you're signing up to. Surely you've seen the program, okay? It never seems to end particularly well. Occasionally they'll just bite the bullet and get on with the day, but yeah, the whole thing seems very bizarre to me. It's like how can we create as crazy an atmosphere as possible for this wedding day? Let's get married on a pig farm or something like that. It's just, I don't know.
At a Sea Life Centre.
What that proves is that A, weddings are too overpriced. And B, anything people will do anything to get a free wedding. Basically, if it means they can get it for free, they will get married in, you know, basically in squalor. You know, they'll get married in an abandoned hospital. You know, they'll do whatever it can for a 3 day
mental asylum.
Yeah,
because they like horror films, so I'll make it horror themed. It's funny what you said about, you know, only doing it once and stuff. I know some people who have got married twice, and like the second time it was to someone who had never been married before. So obviously, the bride would expect like a nice big wedding because she's never done it before. And I guess in that position, you sort of just be like, well, okay, you have to understand where she's coming from and just be like, well, you know, like she's never had this day, like you should give it to her. Like you know, you got to expect, you got to expect that.
yeah.
But yeah, like you say, like obviously it is meant to be forever. Sometimes it's not, unfortunately. But yeah, like how's your luck if you end up having to pay that out twice? I mean, let's hope there's a few years in between, but like.
Yeah, and some people do even more, don't they? Some people end up having 3, 4 weddings, and each time it just gets that little bit smaller, you know. So eventually it's just them in a registry office, you know, just him and his 7th wife, you know. So,
unless
but
you're Henry VIII with a lot of money, like you can't be doing things like that.
Oh no, definitely. I'm happy to say it live on this podcast to my partner. I'll put it out to you now. I hope this is the only time I get married because I literally don't think I could afford it twice. So let's try and stick through it together. Yeah.
So did you find things like was there difficult things, like for example, like you said, like in making it smaller and smaller, people get married? Did you find things like guest lists quite hard because you have to think, well, who do I invite, who don't I invite, like? You worry that some people might be like, oh, I didn't get an invite, they get offended, because people are like that these days. Like me personally, I understand the cost people go through. So if for whatever reason I was not invited to a wedding or something like that, I'd be okay with it because I understand what these people are going through and what it costs. But there's some people who don't see it that way.
It is really tough, and coming to the decision it's really an impossible task, because at times you start thinking to yourself, okay, if I don't invite this person, then it means I can't invite that person, because if I invite that person, this person might get offended if they're not there. It's really hard. So you kind of have to draw a line somewhere, and that's what I had to do. Basically, it was either I invite like 250 people or I invite 100 people. You know, it's kind of like one extreme or the other. There's no real in between. So ultimately, yeah, there may be some people that get upset they're not there. But then equally, if I wasn't invited to their wedding, I wouldn't be heartbroken. Like, it's obviously always nice to get invited to a wedding, but you have to draw the line somewhere, don't you? And ultimately, yeah, it's really bloody expensive. And the most important thing is that the people that I love and care about the most are there. Well, should hopefully be there. They were invited, so fingers crossed they can all make it. And then of course the nice thing that you have, of course, is your evening guests. So these are the people who you'd quite like to be there, and maybe you're not as close as you are with the people that are going to be there during the day, but at least you can get your evening guests in. And that's a really nice thing, I think, to be able to have. It's almost like that buffer zone of saying, you know, I like you, I want you to be there,
but you're B-list. That's what you're a B-list friend.
Essentially that's what it is. I mean, I've been B-list to people, and basically, yeah, you know, exactly. But actually, I think sometimes on the B list is the best part, best time to come, because you missed all the faff that happens in between, right? And you get to come for the party time. And
as well, you ain't got to give them such a big present because you ain't there for the whole day.
Exactly. There's loads of perks to being B list people. So if you're on the B list, please don't be offended. Take it as a compliment. But yeah, you know, the B list makes me think as well about coming at a time when usually there's like a buffet or something. The good food tends to start kicking in at this point. Now it varies massively. I've been to some weddings where in the evening that buffet is a massive full spread with like a whole suckling pig on a platter and
a big salmon, maybe even a little cheeky water feature if they're feeling a bit classy, you know, like something like that.
And then there's others where it's like, here's a burger or here's a hot dog, you know. And so there's real extremes. Exactly. There's extremes between those two types of sort of evening meals, evening buffets that come at the end. But it made me think about the food. I mean, what's your thoughts on wedding food? What's your experience on the food as a whole in the day?
Like, I was speaking to someone the other day who a friend of theirs was getting married. And they would be, I think they had 150 guests going, and the food was £100 a head. Now, for £100 a head, all right, I want to be eating some top class food. You know what I'm saying? So let me start off by saying, I think, like you said, with the whole wedding thing, food is overpriced for the per head price. Okay. on the whole, like I've been to like weddings where the food's been okay most of the time. I went to a wedding in London one, which is in a really sort of posh hotel. And what they did was, so you'd sit down to have your dinner. All the waiters and waitresses all come around the table, and like the head waiter, if you like, would give them a signal with a finger, and they would all put the food down at the same time. It was extremely well coordinated. I've never seen nothing like that before in my life. So that's sort of a different sort of experience. But on the whole, like, yeah, I find like wedding food okay. I've never really been to a wedding where I thought, oh, the food's crap or whatever. But yeah, like I think the main thing from what I know of wedding catering and stuff like that is that it is way too overpriced for what it is.
£100 a head just for the meal. I would be expecting some like Gordon Ramsay shit.
That's
right?
what I'm saying, man. Like, I want Gordon Ramsay to come out and swear at me while he's serving.
Look at me with disdain as I'm eating his chicken. Like that's what I expect for that kind of money. It is overpriced, but the food I think on the whole is generally pretty good standard. Okay, you're kind of getting a cross in between the posh stuff that you might get at a nice restaurant or a hotel, but also you tend to get quite good quantities.
What I remember is as well that when you're catering for that many people, it's difficult for the staff to maybe sometimes always keep the food hot at the same time. So it's quite hard. They've got a hard job too.
It is a hard job, especially when there's multiple courses, right? And this is another thing I've been battling with my other half, at the moment, because I come from an Italian background. I know that's no shock to our listeners who've listened to our podcast. And she's got the sort of British background with a bit of Irish heritage. And I've got something to talk to you about, right? And that is the pasta dish. Okay.
Yes.
So anyone who's never been to an Italian wedding, okay, you have your starter, okay, you have your meat dish, you have your dessert, but in between the starter and the meat, there is a pasta dish.
Yes.
Okay, it might be lasagna, it might
be spaghetti, whatever.
It could be any of them, right? But there is always one. Now, my other half, and rightly so, she's raised to the fact, okay, an extra dish, it's enough food, there's loads of food already. You want to put an extra dish in and a heavy thing like pasta, all right? Yeah. And for us, it's tradition. Where do you stand on the pasta dish, Jake?
Dependent on what's coming after, all right? Because the pasta dish is almost a bit of insurance. Because if the meat dish is going to be absolute trash, all right, the pasta dish saves your appetite. So it's always a good buffer to have in there. However, I do understand it will be an extra cost to the bride and groom. So it's purely at their discretion, I would say. If it's not there, okay, I'll get over it. If it is there, great. See, I'd say I'm like 50-50 on it. Like I'm okay with whatever. Although I must say, if there's going to be a pasta dish, I tend to always wear a suit where I can wear a black shirt because I'm a messy eater and I don't want to look a state in all the photos.
Yeah, I like that. That's good tactical dressing there. Now that you get to dress yourself and it's not your parents dressing you,
exactly.
For weddings, you get to choose. Yeah, black shirt. I like that. Red tie combo.
Or a dark waistcoat. So, like, if it does get a bit of sauce, the waistcoat is shielding the shirt. So if the waistcoat gets dirty, you just take it off after and just wear it as a 2-piece rather than a 3-piece.
I like that. See, well, you get wedding fashion advice on this podcast. That's
exactly.
What we're here to serve.
Never in my life did I ever think I'd be capable of something like this.
But it's not even really the cost of it, because ultimately in the grand scope of things, it's negligible, the cost of an extra dish. It's more just the quantity of food, you see. Again, and that's another thing I think it's like a blessing and a curse coming from an Italian background, is we're used to eating large quantities of food. There were a lot of the weddings we'd go to, like Italian weddings of 2 Italian couples, or maybe like an Italian-Greek mix. There's a lot of food going on, and there's a bit of dancing and a bit of drinking, but it's really centered around the food. Whereas a lot of British and particularly Irish weddings I've been to, there's good quality of food there, quantity, but it's more so about the dancing, about the drinking. So you want to save space for that stuff, right? You don't want to be over bloated. So that's really, I think, where the debate is coming in. I think, again, probably rightly so, there is probably not going to be a pasta dish. So any Italians listening who is invited to the wedding,
bring your own.
Don't be offended. Yeah, bring your own pasta. Maybe we can put some in the buffet afterwards or something. But I know, and I can see that, because you want the space to dance, to drink. So thinking of the drink, right? Free bar, no free bar. Obviously, a free bar wins, right?
Yeah. But I find with the free bar, because I know some caterers sort of just include it into the overall price, so that's not so bad. But I find with the free bar, people take the piss. They take the fucking piss. I'm not even just talking about weddings, like other parties I've been to. I've been to like birthday, like I've had relatives who had like bigger birthday parties, and there's been like a £3,000 bar bill, And it's like, that's fucking stupid. Like, personally, I'm not a huge drinker anyway, but if there's a free bar, I'm not going to go and fucking take the piss. Like, it really gets my goat. Like, there's people getting 2 free drinks at once. So it's a free bar is okay, depending on the whole sort of format of it. If the caterer is going to say, look, I'm going to charge you a one-off price, you're going to get a free bar included, fair play, all right? But if it's a free bar where, like, the bride and groom are going to get a bill at the end of the night, and it's just, like, ridiculous money, like, I would be very cautious with that. I mean, I know people who have done free bar and they've sort of just limited to certain drinks. So it'd be like beer and wine and like the odd spirit. And then anything else you'd have to pay for, which is fair. I think that's fair enough. But I've been to parties where the wedding wasn't a free bar. One of the relatives or the father of the bride or the father of the groom has put money behind the bar. He's put like a couple of grand behind it and it's been drained within fucking no time. So personally, I think free bar is good depending on what your guest base is. If they're a bunch of pissheads who can't control themselves, then fuck them. They pay their own drinks. If they are respectable people who understand it and and don't take the piss, then great. But yeah, I think it's all down to it's down to every situation. I guess each case is different.
So you got to evaluate who you've invited. I like that. So you start to plan. You think, okay, these people are like to drink a lot, so they're going to drink a lot whether it's a free bar or not. Yeah. So they're going to probably be happy to buy their own drinks because they want to drink a lot. I see your tactic there. Yeah,
and they're probably going to be half cut from like. So I'm guessing with like wedding catering, you get like free wine. Well, not free wine. You get wine as part of the sort of like meal deal, if you know what I mean, per se. So they're probably going to be half cut by then anyway. So softens the blow a little bit. But I've been to some weddings. I think it's like Greek and Turkish weddings that I've been to where they bring out. So they don't have a bar. The family go and buy like a shitload of booze, and each table has a bottle of vodka, bottle of whiskey, and when that finishes, they just bring out another one. So it's bottle. It's all done by the bottle rather than going and get individual drinks. And I don't know if that works out cheaper. I'm not sure, but some cultures, I think it's been the Turkish and the Greeks that I've been to, have done it that way.
That's a pretty good tactic. I think with a lot of venues, you end up having to pay corkage on bringing any of your own booze, which sometimes works out a lot more expensive. Like they find a way. The venues find a way to screw you. You know, if they're not screwing you from behind, they're screwing you from in front. Basically,
they're looking you in the eye. As they're putting it into you, they're looking you in the eye and smiling.
I've been stung on one occasion, which wasn't quite a free bar, and one of my really good friends, he got married, and all night, me and another couple of my mates were buying him drinks, going to the bar, so it wasn't a free bar, getting him drinks all night, getting him absolutely drunk, and about 15 minutes before the bar was to close, we go to the bar, and on this occasion, the groom himself goes to order a drink, and the barman says, "Oh, you're the groom, right?" He goes, yeah, and the barman says, "Oh yeah, drinks are free for you." So he gets himself a free. So all night, the amount of money we spent on buying him drinks, and he had free drinks all night. He didn't even know. Okay, so that was the time when I got stung. So one thing I would say, if you're going to a wedding and it's not a free bar, always ask the barman: is the drinks free for the groom? Is the drink free for the bride? Because quite often it probably is, and you could probably save yourself some money there. So that's one hot tip I'd give you.
Or bring a hip flask with you. With your favorite potion in there.
I've seen that been done. Sneaking that in, ladies in their handbags with the alcohol and that kind. Yeah. Buying a Coca-Cola and tipping in the vodka.
I'm not about people being overcharged and ripped off. All right, I think it's ridiculous. So if they can find a way of screwing them back, I'm all for that. I support them.
Yeah, I'll put it out there. If you want to try and smuggle drink into my wedding, people, go ahead. I'm not going to argue with you.
I'm gonna drive in a truck to your wedding, sell it out the back.
But one side effect of drinking, at a wedding and drinking too much, it affects people's behaviour. And I want to talk specifically as well, going on to the subject of the speeches, right? Yeah. The best man speech, father of the bride speech. So, generally speaking as well, what's your thoughts on the speeches at weddings?
I think that is one of the things that puts me off getting married the most, because I don't like public speaking. I find it very hard to sit there or stand there in front of everybody and just give a massive speech. I would get really nervous. I'm quite a confident person in general, but I don't like being the centre of attention. So I think this is where I'd struggle. And I'd probably do the most generic speech ever, which would last the minimal amount of time. All right, I'd tell the bride how beautiful she looks. I'd thank everyone involved, and I just tell everyone to have a good time. I may even throw in the odd dry joke about enjoy it because I'm paying for this. But I don't know. I'm thinking about that.
I think you've just described the best type of speech there, Jake. That sounds pretty good to me.
Quick to the point.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, feel free to use it on your wedding day. All right, I don't mind. Like, whatever. But so speech. Actually, I've got an interesting thing about speeches. Some friends of mine got married, and what they did the speeches at the start of the
Mm,
wedding before the dinner was served, and I thought that was a great idea because like it stops people feeling nervous and it gets it all out of the way.
mm,
And I've been to some weddings where the speeches just go, oh no, no, oh no, it's so fucking boring. And I
mm.
think you just need to get on with it and get it out of the way. Then that way, because if obviously the groom does a speech and the best man does a speech, and I'm guessing is it the father of the bride that does a speech? Yeah, I'm guessing so.
Yeah, father of the
Yeah.
bride. Yeah,
Do the groom's parents do a speech? I don't know. Maybe they do. I'm not sure.
I've seen
But
it been done, but not regularly. No.
yeah. So these are all quite key people in the wedding party. And they're probably going to be feel really nervous. So I think it's good to get them out of the way first. So you can just get it out of the way and enjoy the rest of the day. You know, it doesn't spoil it for anyone. So yeah, I would say do the speeches first. That's a great idea.
100% with you on that. And on the one occasion where I've been a best man and done a best man speech, fortunately, I think it was in between the starter and the main. And I was nervous. So, I think a lot of people do get nervous, especially because a lot of people who are involved in doing the speeches have probably never spoken in public before in that way, speaking to maybe 100
Yeah.
or so people. So, to get it out of the way nice and early, wholeheartedly agree. But I need to talk to you about best man speeches as well,
Okay.
having done one, because I find them at times incredibly cringy, like
Yeah.
really uncomfortable to listen to.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And part of that is because of the inside jokes that take place, right? It's the
Yeah.
best man, he's
Yeah.
doing this thing, saying this, that, and the other, make some joke that literally maybe four people in the room can understand,
Yeah.
and they start laughing, and everyone else is looking at their bewilderment. So
Yeah.
it's an uncomfortable place sometimes to watch a best man speech. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
Yeah. I mean, I've been to weddings where like the best man has come out with like jokes and stuff, and I personally been laughing because I just find the joke quite funny anyway. But then you think to yourself, well, there's sort of older relatives in the room. Do they really need to hear about their nephew like being like addicted to porn when he was younger? I'm having having a shitload of like porn on a hard drive and stuff like that. Or like just, and it's like funny because it's like lad banter, and between guys you can probably all laugh about it, even if you don't know the person, you can still just laugh about it because it's just like juvenile male sort of banter. But when you're coming out with jokes like that and like families there and stuff, and they're not finding it funny, I just think you just look like a bit of an idiot, to be honest. I actually writ a best man speech once. So my uncle, he was best man to his brother-in-law, and I don't know, my uncle's quite a dry guy. And like he was trying, obviously, I don't think he likes public speaking or anything like that. So I thought I fancied myself as a bit of a funny guy. All right, so I thought I'm gonna help him write the speech. I've put in joke in after joke, and I think maybe because he doesn't really like it and he was quite nervous, the way he delivered those jokes were just like an 8-year-old kid reading an assembly, and like it just bombed. It just bombed. All right,
Oh God.
bombed completely. Because obviously he was nervous. Like I don't think he'd ever been best man to anyone before. I'm not sure. But he was quite nervous, and he wasn't coming out with like the right sort of delivery and stuff. And at the start of it, I was saying to people, "I listen to these jokes. Yeah, I wrote this speech. It'd be so funny." And it just bombed completely. I looked like an absolute dickhead.
So was that the start and end of your speechwriting career?
Yeah. After that, I just hung up. I put my pen away. I'm done.
Well, maybe you can blame your uncle for that one. I don't know. I don't know. I think you're a pretty funny guy. I'll put it out there. But the jokes, the speech, the flow of it really does depend on the person that's delivering.
Right.
And when I think about the father of the bride, right? For me, there's two different types.
Yeah.
There's one father of the bride who has so much to say and goes on and on and on and on. And then there's the second type. Okay, a father of the bride who literally has about 4 sentences. Thank you, welcome my new son-in-law. You're now part of the family. You make my daughter feel very happy, and don't you look beautiful today, my lovely daughter, in your wedding dress? Thanks everyone for coming. Have a good time. That's it, basically. Like I've just done the speech there, right? And that's literally two extremes: loads to say or nothing to say.
Yeah, I mean, one funny story. When my auntie got married, my granddad, he did a speech, and like obviously my granddad came over like from Sicily or whatever when he was like a youngish guy. Speaks broken English still to this day, but like most of the times he talks with his hands. So when he was talking, the mic kept going away from his mouth, so it kept cutting out. So you couldn't really get an idea of what the hell you were saying. Like, I remember everyone. At the time I was only like 8 or 9, so I didn't really understand it. But like, everyone else was going crazy. It wasn't until I was a lot older and watched that video back how funny that situation actually was.
You got to love the old people, the ethnics who don't really know about technology. Yeah. They're the ones. We've grown up around those people. And so the speeches. So we've talked a bit there about what it means to stand up in front of people and deliver, and thinking about somebody who has a big part to play in a lot of the weddings that we go to that does that a lot is of course the priest, right? Quite often, I mean, we're both from a sort of Christian background, so we've went to a lot of weddings at churches. So you've got the church ceremony, you've got the registry office type ceremony, which is not really in a religious sense. So thoughts on the whole experience of going through that bit where the vows are getting said?
I've been to a few different types of ceremony. I've been to the church type, the registry office type, and I've been to like an outdoor ceremony as well, where I think is where they get like a minister in, is an ordained minister to come and read the vows and whatnot, X, Y, and Z. I remember one particular time. So the priest says something about adultery, and the whole church goes quiet. And it basically says like, "Do you promise never to cheat on like, I don't know, your husband or whatever?" So the whole church goes quiet, but all we hear is like laughing coming out like the back door. And it's like, well, who's to blame here then? Like,
oh wow, okay.
It's like, well, but not from anyone in the congregation. Just I think it's like some kids playing outside, and they're just like laughing. But it's the way he sort of said that it went quiet, and then the kids start laughing, like they're mocking
time. Yeah, some nervous-looking people in that congregation, I bet.
Yeah, and I always find as well certain ceremonies, the enjoyment of them comes from the guy at the front, so the priest basically. I personally think that if the priest is like a funny guy and he comes out of like, just like really nice things and that, it's a really nice ceremony and it doesn't make it like boring or anything. But some of them can be quite boring, especially like I've been to like Catholic weddings and then like Church of England weddings, and the whole Catholic thing drags on a little bit longer. Yeah. It's like maybe over an hour, but the Church of England ones are like a lot more swift. They're sort of they get it in, they do the vows, and that's it pretty much.
Yeah, the pace is good. I like that. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. The church ones are quick, and even the ones are just like the registry office or whatever are so quick. Get in and
purely
out.
Business, all business. That's what it is.
All business, baby, and then you get to enjoy it. So I really enjoy it. Actually, having spent years and years and years only experiencing Catholic weddings in the recent years, where I've got to experience other types. I'm like, okay, I like the pace that happens in these other ones.
You can customize your own wedding. You can take bits from every different ones and make your own like own super wedding.
It would be good. It would be so good if we could do that. The only thing that I really do love about the Catholic wedding is being able to belt out the hymns. Being able to belt out those hymns is the one. Okay,
I just lip sync them.
You're in the background. You don't want to use your vocal talents, Jake. Is that what you're saying?
I don't have any to use, so that's why I just lip sync.
You lip sync. You're there with the choir book covering your face.
Well, that's the thing. Going back to when we was kids, like none of the kids would ever behave in the church. We'd all be trying to mug each other off and try and make one of the others laugh, and our parents would be going crazy at us.
Yeah. And the baby starts crying, and the priest looks over, gives dirty looks, like, "Get your baby out of here! I'm trying to do a wedding, baby." So,
I mean, and there's always a woman at the church, all right, who's like proper up the priest's backside. Her name's usually like Karen or something, or she's usually like in her late to mid. Susan, it's like mid to late 50s, maybe her 60s, all right, and she's a real fucking battle axe. Even at a wedding I went to a few years back, all right. So John, who was on the podcast like last time we did it, me and him were at his wedding, and we're just like joking about in the church. We probably shouldn't have been joking about in the church, so that's probably shouldn't have been doing that. But we're just mucking around, and like this woman, she was telling us to be quiet because we were mucking around, all right, just like having a little joke between each other, all right. Would you be quiet? Would you be quiet? X, Y, Z. So we was like, okay, we better just like be a bit more respectful. And then we just thought we'd take photos because I thought that's what you could do at weddings. You could take photos. And then she just come racing over like a ninja out the shadows and was like, "You cannot take photos in here." I'm like, "What?" Like, okay, sorry. So we've watched her walk out the door and just started taking photos again. I thought, fuck her, fuck you.
Yeah, the old battle axe. She's like guarding the church. Yeah, I know exactly the one.
The guardian of the sacred wine.
Yeah. Do you think she's just there every day telling people off in that church? She's
got a sad little life, mate. It's got nothing else in it. So, And of course, the priest probably thinks the same thing, but being the man of the cloth, he's not going to tell her that, is he?
Yeah. She does his dirty work. Is that what you're saying?
Well, maybe, yeah. But she's his enforcer.
I'd love to be able to combine all those different best bits. You know, the speed of the registry office wedding and the hymns that you get in the Catholic one. I don't know exactly how we're doing it, but we are going to get married in a Catholic church. We're both Catholic, and we've been having our meetings with the priest, and that's been quite interesting actually. Yeah, the priest is a pretty cool guy. You know, we go to his house, we sit down, we talk for an hour or so about stuff completely unrelated to weddings for some reason, and then we go home afterwards. So
maybe he just wants a bit of company.
I think that's what it is. Yeah. No. I lie a little bit. You know, we probably spent about 10 minutes talking about the wedding, and then the rest of the time we're just chatting about random stuff. But yeah, he's a nice guy, and I think he does want the company. So we'll keep going to see him every other week like we're supposed to. But yeah, you have this in between period. Okay, so you have the church ceremony. You're making your way. You eventually get to the venue where the party's going to happen. And you've got this in-between time now, okay, before you go and have your sit-down meal. And this is usually where all the photographs are getting taken.
That's right. It's the waiting in between bit.
Okay, though that photograph taking period for me is usually far too long. It goes on far too long. I have been to weddings where there've been people getting married near the coast. We're at the venue waiting to go and sit down, okay, to have a meal, right? By this point, probably starving because you've been like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
Church and everything else. They're off on the beach having all their fancy photographs taken, all right? Drawing words in the sand like Mr. and Mrs. Heart, love forever, right? And you're waiting there to go and sit down. That photograph period for me, I don't know how it can be done, how it can be sped up, but we need to find a way prior to my wedding of getting that sped up. Because I'm thinking of the people now, okay? I'm thinking about how hungry they are.
Yeah. I mean, and then when the waiter comes out with the hors d'oeuvre tray, everyone like jumps him, like robs him pretty much.
That's the only saving grace, okay, is the hors d'oeuvres, the canapes, right, before.
Okay. Well,
if you've got that, it works.
This is what you might be able to do. Okay, no, maybe not. Okay, I had this suggestion, but it really goes out of line of what the traditional wedding sort of traditions are. Okay, so obviously you're not allowed to see the bride or the bride's dress, are you, before like you get married traditionally because it's bad luck or whatever. How about we fuck that tradition off, all right? The bride and groom get dressed up. You get your immediate family. You have some pictures taken with them before the wedding day, all dressed up. However, you do not publish them until the time comes when you release your wedding album. You're cutting at least, I don't know, 10, 20 pictures out there, all right? Call it unromantic, call it a bit robotic, but it's bloody conventional, all right?
See, that is a really good suggestion. Thinking about it, it's not something I'd ever thought of before. Okay, it breaks with tradition, but then, you know, so many people break with tradition when they end up getting married 4 or 5 or 6 times. So,
exactly.
You know, what the hell? You know, it's like
I don't know if it'll catch on, but it's worth a go.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm pretty afraid to put that to my other half. I think she might shut it down, or maybe we can get the photographer to use like Photoshop. Take pictures of us individually and somehow put them together. See, there we go.
See,
technology.
I provide the idea. You just expand on it and level it up a little bit. Actually, I've got a question. Have you ever been to weddings of a different culture?
Not as such. So if you're talking about maybe weddings of a completely different, like maybe religious culture, not really. The closest difference I've ever been to is like an Irish wedding. Which is different to maybe anything I've experienced before, essentially because it's like, well, you're in a different country. And the big difference I found at an Irish wedding compared to other weddings, apart from the fact they are fabulous, like I've been to a few of them and they are brilliant because of the atmosphere, the music, the liveliness, the drinking that takes place, is that they basically spread their celebration over a few days. Okay, right. So the day after the wedding, everyone gets together again at like a hired venue or a restaurant. So most of the wedding guests are there again. You have another meal together, a bit of socializing, and then all the kind of younger people go clubbing the night after the wedding. So it's a bit different. Yeah, it's a bit different. And that seems to be a common theme with all the Irish weddings I go to. So I'm sure someone will point out and say, actually, that doesn't happen. Right. It's just the people I know. But that seems to be something culturally, which is a little bit different. But not on the scale of maybe like going to like an Asian wedding or something like that. No. How about you?
See now I've been to an Asian wedding. That is quite a lavish affair. So a couple of days before the wedding, you have the Mendi, which where I think you all sort of get together. It's done in like a big sort of function hall, catered and whatever. And the women have the henna tattoo done. All the women have that. The ladies have that done. And then so the bride and groom are sort of like on a stage. And then one by one, all the guests go up It's like a ceremony, and you feed them either a sweet or some fruit, and then you get given like a leaf, and you can draw a little henna design on a leaf, and you present it to them, and then you put like water on. So if you're a guy, you put some water on the groom's forehead, and if you're a girl, I think you put water on the bride's forehead. So it's quite a sort of, I think for the bride and groom, it's quite a sort of an exhausting sort of process because they're there like on that stage like all night. There's like 150 people there. But it was for me not been to anything like that before. Like it was quite nice. It was a nice change, just to see the way different cultures do it. And then like 2 days later, you have the wedding, and that's once again quite a sort of big affair. Like the groom came in on like a massive white horse.
Oh wow!
To greet the bride, and then they do this thing where I think it's like maybe I'm not understanding it very well, and people will probably correct me. So there's like a tradition where the bride is at the front door with her like bridesmaids essentially, and the groom comes up and he has to pay money to get in the door to see his wife or wife to be. And there's a whole like two like back and forth type thing between the bridesmaids and the groom. Like, is that enough money? No, it's not. You need to pay more, and all that happens. And then like you've got the actual main thing that gets in, and then they're once again on a big stage, and like the imam was there, and he marries them in front of everybody, and then you just sort of had the celebration. But it was a very, very big do. It was like 400 people.
Wow.
There's a lot of people there. So yeah, so that was an Asian wedding. I've been to a Greek wedding where I believe they were Greek Orthodox. Well, the husband was, the wife wasn't. And that's like, if you think a Catholic ceremony is long, the Greek Orthodox one was very. I got lost. I didn't really know what was happening. There's all these different traditions going on, and they like to pin money on the bride and groom as well. Like they're dancing around, and like they've got like money being pinned on them, like massive like pieces of paper, like £50 notes, £10, £20 notes, all of that. So that was quite good. And I also went to a Turkish wedding once, and it was half Turkish, half Italian, and they did this thing called the pot dance. So what it is, they get all the young ladies in the crowd up to sort of dance around this pot, and in the pot, I think there's like money and sweets in the pot, and they're all dancing around. And what it is, apparently, I didn't know this, is to show that these girls are available. They're single girls, so the guys in the crowd can, maybe find a potential wife.
Okay.
And someone said to me like, "Oh, yeah, that's to show like they're virgins." And I said to them, "Don't fool me." I said, "Look at the way she's moving those hips. That is not a virgin, all right?"
Jay, you got some kind of virgin radar. I'm a bit concerned about this.
I'm just saying, I just put it out, right? I was like, no, she's way too seductive. She knows exactly what she's doing, that one. So yeah, so then like they finish dancing and they sort of like smash the pot, and like it's like full of money and sweets, and it all gets separated. And then I think the money gets given to the band who are playing the music. Because obviously while they're dancing, they're playing music. So yes, there's a lot of weird and wonderful things I've seen at different weddings, which differs from what I know personally.
So that's the beautiful thing, I suppose, about the wedding is that it depended on the culture, the people. There's no two weddings really that are alike. No. You can have a lot of similar features, but it always comes down to there being something completely unique about each and individual wedding. And there's good things to take, things that you might leave behind. I'm just going to give you a few things that I've got from this podcast, Jake, that I'm going to put to my other half. Okay. So I'm hoping I'll get to speak to her before she hears this. Otherwise she'll get a nice surprise. But these are things I've established from this podcast. I'm going to ask her for the following. To have rather than a church wedding, have a registry office so we can get in and out really quickly, but with a few hymns that we can belt out in between. Fair enough. I'm going to ask her.
Shine, Jesus, shine. Is that one you want?
Absolutely, yeah. And Lord of the Dance, that one as well.
Why not?
I'm going to ask her if she'd be prepared to get in a wedding dress a couple of days before the wedding, have our photos done and photoshopped before their wedding day.
As per my request.
I'm gonna demand the pasta dish is included into the wedding meal because there will be some people who probably don't like the main, so it's only fair. I am going to ask her if it's okay for me to arrive on white horseback. So on the back of a white horse. I would like that, yeah. So I'm going to arrive on a white horse on the wedding day. And then I'm going to see if she's okay with people pinning money to us to help pay for the wedding bills afterwards. These are just some of the things I'm going to be putting to her in a bid to hope that she'll agree with me. And maybe we can adapt our wedding, taking all this wonderful culture and experience that we've talked about.
Are you guys thinking of doing a choreographed first dance? Because that's a thing. It's not for me.
Okay. Well, there'll definitely be a first dance. whether it's choreographed or not, well, I'd imagine we'll have some like moves per se. I don't think we'll plan the dance out. I think it'll just maybe just a standard like
Yeah,
I
a
can
dance.
spin you, this kind of
Yeah.
stuff, move from side to side. It won't be anything too fancy, that's for
Oh,
sure.
okay.
But yeah, I mean, we both enjoy dancing anyway. We've been to a few dance lessons in the past, just
Sure.
learning a few basic moves and stuff. But it won't be. I don't imagine it'll be anything too fancy. I've tried to explain to her that there's like an Italian tradition where
Right.
during the first dance, the bride and groom basically get surrounded by all the guests,
Yeah.
and then they're just covered in streamers and party
Yeah.
poppers are gone off and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, she's not a fan of that at all. So,
Okay. So what about if you modify that and say, look, we don't do it as a first dance, we do it later on in the evening.
well, maybe. I mean, I might be able to convince
Everyone's
her.
had a few drinks.
Yeah, maybe if
Everyone's
she's had a few to drink, I reckon
well,
she'll.
Joe,
Yeah.
I need to know this because I need to buy like silly string and poppers and streamers and shit. Right? I can't
Silly
get that.
string.
I can't get stuff like this short notice. Right? You need to tell me if this is happening or not.
Okay, we can't discuss this on the podcast. We might have to do this afterwards. But yeah, I think we're going to work it in there somehow. But yeah, even when they pick up the Italian weddings, where they pick up the bride and groom, bounce them up and down and stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
I've done that.
all of that's to come. Yeah, I want to leave some surprises to her, right? So
Yeah.
let's not go too far into it, Jake, because I wanted to find out.
Maybe I don't mention to her about the 4-piece band coming in as well. Then.
Shh, shh. Not all the secrets, Jake. Not all the secrets. So yeah, there's a lot to come. But overall, I will say it's been a fun experience planning the wedding, and we've got a few months to go. We're lucky that in some sense that it's next year, so we haven't been caught out by everything that's gone on with this pandemic and all the weddings that have been cancelled. And for the people that have had their weddings cancelled, I can't sympathise enough with you. The amount of time and effort and planning and money that goes into it, only to be told basically you're going to have to postpone for a year or so. Like, it's devastating. So I do have massive sympathy for people now that I've gone through the process myself. But it just means that next year there's going to be a bumper crop of weddings. There's going to be so many to catch up on. It's going to be a good experience, and I'm looking forward to getting married, and I'm looking forward to going to other people's weddings as well.
Good. I think that ties it up quite nicely, doesn't it, for weddings?
Yeah, we've covered most of it.
Yeah. I don't think there is any more. I don't know. I'm not an expert. But thanks for listening, guys. I hope it's been entertaining, and we've educated you the best way two males can about weddings, or seen our point of view of it. If you hated it, I don't blame you either. we got some extreme ideas, but yeah. Thanks for listening. It's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me.
See you later, guys.